Good evening, Lisa. Good evening, everyone who's around. Lisa, who's the moderator for this class, please?
I am the moderator, sir. Mariam.
Who's that? Miriam.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. This is Lisa, could you do something?
Sure I do.
Could you do something for me? Take a screenshot of everybody that's in class now.
Okay.
Have you
Done.
done that? Okay. Okay, grant everybody for their punctuality and this thing, grant them +1 on their attendance.
All right. Not I did.
Thank you very much. I'll grant all of them +1. This is 459 in class, so I'm impressed. You should just grant them a +1 on the attendance.
All right. Yeah.
Did you get in touch with Petra?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, for this class, huh? Listen.
Yes.
Note the party with the least attendance. Whichever party has least attendance, take -1 attendance from the chairman.
All right. I
I think we should start taking action on this kind of behavior because I think this is 5 o'clock. It's Nigerian time. Nobody's around. I don't think that's nice.
All right. I do.
Okay, so we'll give our usual 5 minutes. People to come into the class. Petra is in class.
Hello.
Good day and welcome, Petra. How's everything, my dear sister?
Fine, thank you. Sorry, I just need
No,
to
it's okay.
my.
We usually give the class 5 minutes for everybody to, probably went to work, everybody's trying to settle down. So we'll give them 5 minutes coming to the class, then they'll read your bio. So give or take, you still have about six,
Okay,
6 minutes.
I'm trying to
So
round up the class. No
okay
problem.
then, thank you very much, ma.
You don't want a client with a preference of a
Good evening, guys. Welcome back to class. The 5 minutes is over. My name is Maria Mayemi Kogoto, and I'll be moderating this session today. So before we start, I'd like to take the citation of our moderator. I'll be taking us on strategic political communication. So, Petra Akinti Oyegbile is a respected political communication strategist and public affairs consultant with nearly 2 decades of experience in message development, political PR, perception management, and policy advocacy. Known for her clarity, depth, and insight, Petra has advised political leaders, government agencies, and institutions on how to navigate public opinion, build trust, and shape narratives that drive influence and public engagement. She made history as the first female chief press secretary in Nigeria, serving the governor of Kogi State from 2016 to 2019. In that capacity, she led all state-level strategizing media relations, managing crisis and public perception through transparent, people-centered messaging. Currently, Petra is the group head of corporate communications and experience at Credlanche Group, assists multiple channel messaging, stakeholder engagement, positioning across subsidiaries. Our work ensures synergy, reputation, and customer trust, an extension of our ability, policy, messaging, and public sentiment. Political communication expertise can be in this message development and political brand. That is, she crafts persuasive cultural that resonates with constituents, reputation and crisis management, guiding political leaders through reputational storms, responses that protect credibility, media relations, amplifying voices through targeted media placement, grassroots engagement, and storytelling. Policy advocacy, leading issue-based campaigns that shape public discourse and support policy change. Government relations, building bridges between elected officials and stakeholders, strengthening alliances and policy support. Petra has mentored several young communicators and political aides, offering guidance on navigating political spaces with strategic precision. She's also the director of Libra Prime Communications, a consultancy specializing in political PR and strategic messaging, the founder of Anike Roberts Clothing, ARC, where she combines entrepreneurship with advocacy, and the first female vice president of Ogori Descendant Union to accelerate our community development and service. Our academic portfolio includes a BA in sociology, MA in international relations, international affairs and strategic studies, an MBA finance and investment, and an ongoing field in leadership and strategic studies, PhD, which she collectively ground are in governance, economic policy, and strategy. Ladies and gentlemen, make welcome our first leader today, Miss Petra Akinti Oyegbile.
Before Petra starts, I'd first like to say thank you. This is the first time this course has ever been taken in the college. Petra and I were just talking and it just came up. Petra has been a sister. We've come across quite a lot together. The one thing I'll never forget was when I started running for Senate and, she was part of the APC then, she was strongly behind my campaign, regardless of who the APC had in Abuja. I would never forget that. Petra has remained a very close sister, considering, she's became the voice of my mother's state. And Petra, so Okunjeko, welcome.
Good evening, everybody. This is the microphone check. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Good evening, and I'm so honored to be with you this evening to talk about something that I am passionate about and something that is also very well misunderstood. Everybody who can say anything on social media believes that they can become, communication strategists and experts. Usually you find lawyers saying that, oh, you cannot think that because you did 2 weeks course in law on Udemy or Coursera, therefore you are qualified to discuss legal matters. You hear the pharmacist saying that because you are a chemist doesn't mean that you understand pharmacology and you know how drugs can be utilized or can be used. Doctors, all professionals, but people don't think that communications is a specialized profession. And they don't think that politics, actually, that you need to understand the science and the art of politics for you to make any difference. When you now combine the two, it's an all-commerce affair. Everybody wants to talk about politics. Everybody wants to communicate about it. Everybody believes that they understand what political communication is about, and which is why I'm so happy that Electoral College decided that it is the right coinage is strategic political communications. Why? Because as much as we want to communicate, we want to disseminate information, we want to give feedback, this feedback that we are giving must not be random. And so with this, I hope that at the end of our session, you did not give me time. How much time do I have for my presentation? Please, may I know?
Okay, the classes run from 5 p.m. to say 7 p.m. So maybe you could use an hour or 45 minutes and then we'll take questions after that.
Thank you. Okay, so I just want to revise this right now. Give me a second. Thank you.
Oh, would you need help with the slides?
You will, yes, I will need that.
All right, let me share it from my answer.
Okay, I'm sorry for that break and welcome back. Who is sharing my slide, please?
Lisa, you should have the slides up by now.
It'll be on the screen, yeah.
Thank you. So I begin by going straight to our learning objectives, which is on the next slide and the third slides. Our learning objectives. By the end of this session, participants, our esteemed participants here will be able to, one, gain a clear understanding of strategic political communication in shaping public opinion and political outcomes. Two, learn how to craft strategic messages tailored to different audiences. Three, demonstrate a grasp of demographic and psychographic segmentation to tailor messages for maximum impact. Next slide, please. Four is learn how to create a strong and consistent political identity. And five, sorry about the numbering mistakes there, gain skills in handling misinformation, public perception, and crisis response while maintaining integrity. And with that, I go to the introduction. Politics all over the world is always about persuasion, because especially in democracy, politics is a game of number. And so you want to win as many people as you want to your side. It's a game of persuading, it's a game of influencing, and it's a game of converting. You need to convert. You need to persuade, you need to influence, and then you need to convert, and then turn your converts into converters, into people who can mobilize, and into people who can also influence to convert other sets of people. And now, in a hyper-connected world, strategic communication has become the game changer, because it is not just about putting out messages. It is not just longer about what is said, but how, the when of the saying, where, and to whom it is said. So, and that is where the psychographic segmentation comes in. What is the audience? What is the audience makeup? Who am I targeting my message to? How are they going to receive the message? How are they going to interpret it? How are they going to perceive it? And that is why a lot of times strategic communication is more about perception than it is about reality. Because there is the reality, then there is the perception, which most times people who understand the power of optics and perception manipulate to their own advantage. So in a world that where a lot of issues, a lot of concerns are grappling for our attention, and I say our data, it's become, if you understand how to manipulate people's emotions, if you understand how to manipulate the feel-good side of them, what they want to connect to, then you will be able to get your message across. They don't want to look at the layers. They don't want to look at the depth of it. They just want to look at what is at the surface. And that is why many times people who, you would realize that people who try to question, when you try to ask the hard questions, people want to shut you up. People want to wonder why you are a hater. You are automatically a hater, or one of the words that we like to throw around is bigots. They call you a bigot, either ethnic or religious. And so it becomes really, really necessary that we look at this strategic communication, political communication, which explores the power of not just well-crafted messaging, but intentional, that the intentionality of it must not be underscored, it must be underscored to shaping public opinion and to enhance political branding and foster trust between leaders and citizens. Now, what is strategic political communication? You're too fast, Lisa. Strategic political communication involves the deliberate, intentional, and planned use of communication to influence public perception, shape political narratives, and achieve political goals. What is the purpose? Why strategic communications? Inform citizens about policies. Now we are talking about when the political communication is about governance. Inform citizens about policies, candidates, and governance. Persuade voters when it is about elections to adopt specific viewpoints. And 3, mobilize communities towards political action. Political action could be during campaigns, during electioneering season, or around governance. And why does it matter? We have said, why are we doing it? Why does it actually matter? Because we must influence how people perceive political issues and candidates. We want them to see a particular candidate during an election in a certain way. If he is stingy, he doesn't help people, he doesn't assist members of his community, he has never paid the school fees of anybody from his immediate community, even though he has the means. He does not have any foundation that caters to the needs of the needy in his community. If he doesn't do all those things, we say that he's prudent. We say he is not stingy. He has just decided that rather than do that, why don't I just have a factory in Abuja? Why don't I have a company in Lagos where any Nigerian can be employed, so long as you have the right credentials. Why do I have to do anything for my people? That way, we shape the perception, we craft this person as someone who is frugal, somebody who is prudent, and somebody who looks away from the immediate to the general. And we want strategic political communication to influence voter behavior. Having shaped this opinion, having influenced the way people perceive political issues and candidates, we want to now drive electoral outcomes. We have said this thing. We all know how, well, in the recent past, I'm going to use APC, President Muhammadu Buhari, former President Muhammadu Buhari. We had to transform him from a military dictator to a Democrat, someone who was famed and perceived as a non-listener, to somebody who had advisors and people around him to whom he listened, to whom he deferred, and to whom he took decisions with whom he took decisions. And also, we saw, of course, we saw the outcome of that. It also helps to drive political narratives. With strategic political communication, we are able to define the key messages because you are in charge. You are able to define the key messages that dominate public discourse and the media. And now this is assuming that we are talking strategic political communication in environments where this is highly regarded and where people actually are in control of how messages go out from a campaign organization or from around a candidate or from within a government. We are going to get to that soon. And how does political communication take place? Lisa, are you too fast?
Okay, that's the slide after this. Should I stay on the slide?
Hold on, for Electoral College. Sorry. There's something missing in your slide and my slide. There is no connect there. Slide 5. There is a slide, I don't know what's happening, but in both of my slides, I have it. There's a slide that talks about how political communication takes place. You have the optics, plus perception, plus narrative, plus the messaging, and then you have your political communication. Thank you. That's the slide. You have the optics. The optics, what was optics? Optics in politics is what people see, and it's usually from images. What people see, what do they see? They see a woman frying akara by the roadside. What does that optics say? What does the strategic political communication want it to communicate? They want it to communicate that, oh, this person who is an elite, who is a member of the elite class, has come down to the level where they are seen with the masses, where they identify with the masses. Now, don't forget, the every message is not for every audience. So when you, who are also an elite, maybe not in bank accounts, I'm sorry, but maybe in education and exposure, are screaming, saying, this doesn't matter. What does frying akara by the roadside? What has it got to do with elections? How does it make anybody a leader? The target audience sees something totally different. The optics leads to the perception of she is one of us. He hawks oranges, therefore he understands our pains. When he gets into office, he's going to know what it is to be in our shoes. He remembers, he knows, he feels it. Therefore, he is going to have our best interest at heart. And so it pushes out the narrative. And when that narrative goes out, you craft the messaging, because don't forget, it's organic. You just throw the picture out. Nobody's giving out any information. You allow people to interpret it. And then they form the perception. Their narrative is crafted, and from there you are able to get all aggregates, all the comments, all the feedback, sieve it. Don't forget again that it is strategic, it is intentional, and it is targeted. You sieve it, you target, you craft the message in a way that targets your audience, and you send out that message. That's political communication. And that's essentially, this is how it takes place. From the optics to the perception formed without you guiding it, but from the very beginning, you already know why you are taking that picture. You know why you want that person to be pushing something in a wheelbarrow. You know why you want that person to carry groundnuts on a tray on their head. And then you just throw the picture out there, and then you allow the perception to be formed. Of course, you know the target audience. The people who are not the target audience, they are, unfortunately, their opinions never count, because they are not the target audience. And then the narrative is formed and message is crafted. Essentially, that is political communication. So I'm going to, I guess that I skipped that slide in the beginning. So I'm going to political communication in Nigeria, a strategic political communication perspective. As much as strategic political communication plays a vital role in shaping how policies are perceived, accepted, and implemented, in Nigeria, there is a huge absence of a coordinated approach, and it has exposed deep flaws in how government policies are communicated to the public. In the last, say, 12 years, most people who have followed public discourse and followed governance issues knows that there is a lacuna and there is a lack of coordination in government, in communicating government policies, government actions, government decisions, and somehow it has affected the perception of the government, how citizens see the government. So government thinks, and then it leads to a trust deficit. And this trust deficit, even though is higher on the citizen side against government, is both ways. Because then when citizens are complaining genuinely, when citizens are saying that this government is not doing anything, this government cannot be trusted for another term. What is this minister doing? What is that minister doing? What's the president doing? What's the presidency doing? The judiciary, the federal government as a whole. The federal government is wondering, we have done XYZ. I mean, it was in the news. It was in the news 3 months ago. What do they mean? They don't know what we are doing. We can't even trust them. Opposition must be behind this noise, right? We understand this. We've seen it play out. We've seen it happen. And so because of that trust gap between the government and its citizens, and of course, this is rooted in years of inconsistent messaging and unmet expectations, a lack of transparency, we have seen that a whole lot is not, there is no connect between governance and feedback, because government thinks that they are doing the right thing. Citizens don't actually really know what government is doing because the messaging is not articulated. Okay, I'll get to that in a bit. Not well articulated. The channels are disjointed. You have, I've seen instances. I will use my state, Kogi, for instance. Next slide, please. For those who are following things happening in Kogi State, in one day, I saw 3 communications from a single ministry with different government officials releasing statements with official letterhead. The commissioner wrote something, the special advisor to the governor from that ministry wrote something totally different, and an SSA wrote something totally different as well. I was amused but sad. And this happens because messaging is not warehoused within a single trusted authority. I always advocate that no messaging should go out of any organization, any entity. Now, whether in the public space or in the private sector, no messaging should go out because messages must be consistent with the brand and the identity that that brand wants to project or wants the public to see it as. Instead, multiple agencies and spokespersons issue conflicting statements, like I've given the example of Kogi State in the last 3-4 days, causing confusion and weakening public confidence. And up till now, there has been no government statement clarifying all the issues in that ministry. It is also common, very common, to see widely spread announcements that claim to be from government, only for another widely spread message to debunk it. We've seen it many times. And it is this inconsistency that undermines the credibility of policy intentions. It shows that there is, if a message comes out and says that, for instance, the federal government has taken a step towards paying the hospital bills of everybody in tertiary hospitals in Nigeria. And whilst that is going on, another message comes out to say, oh, it is not true. That's not a correct communication. We only said that we were going to pay for indigent people in selected government hospitals. Somehow everybody's antenna are up. What do you mean selected government hospital? And who are the indigent? Oh, federal government has budgeted, they've released money for all patients in tertiary hospitals in Nigeria, but some people want to pocket it. Some people want to pocket it, and now they're saying that it's for how are they going to know the indigent? Which hospital? What's the criteria for selecting which hospitals and what patients to pay for? So it undermines credibility of policy intentions and actual execution of those policies. Another one, of course, is the lack of strategic alignment. When policy communication is reactive, as we often see, fragmented and devoid of strategic political communication principles such as clarity, consistency, audience analysis, and coordinated framing, such communication remains very, very defective because at the end of the day, you are chasing after the issues when you should have a grasp of the issues. Things happen, you do not come, there is a lack of transparency. You don't come out first to say this is it. And when you come out eventually to react, you are not covering all the bases. So you leave loopholes that can be exploited, and it further damages the credibility that such a government or a candidate or a brand has. Now, what are the strategies for policy communication in governance? Sometimes we see kite flying. This is used by government to leak ideas, to test public reaction before official rollout. So, for instance, a government wants to increase tax to, say, 30%, for instance, and they fly the kite by leaking out this information where you have anonymous sources within the government has said, and you see those kinds of news. Our sources say that federal government intends, or a particular state government intends to increase tax to 60%. And everybody is up in arm. There is cacophony of noise. There is serious hoopla. We expand, we debate. Some people support it, 60%. What do you mean 60%? That means we'll have more roads. That means we'll have more hospitals. That means we'll have, don't you want Nigeria to be like America? Do you know how much they pay, how much taxes they pay in America? There is so much noise, some defending, some against, some saying, okay, let's look at it. Yes, assuming that tax that we pay is 5%. Oh, 5% is, government can't do so much with 5%. That's why they keep borrowing, and we cannot continue to borrow because the more we borrow, the longer we mortgage our children's future for. Therefore, why can't government even increase it to, like, say 15, 20? That's manageable. Government that intended to increase it to 30%, they get their analysts to aggregate all these messages, get data therefrom, and then re-strategize and say, okay, we can now just increase it to, say, 25%. So we wanted 30, they are saying 20 is not bad. Let's make it 25%. At that point, people are, by the time it officially rolls out, people are drained from having debated 60%. And then everybody is happy. Suddenly, 60%, that was almost ridiculous. If not that, we screamed. Just imagine this government. If not that, we screamed. They would have raised it to 60%. Government achieves its purpose by that kite flying, and then they roll out their policy and everybody seems cool. Agenda setting, control what issues dominate public discourse. And we see this happen a lot. You have public affairs analysts, policy affairs analysts, sometimes who are friends of the government, but we do not know. Forgive me, because I was in government and sometimes I saw people who were our people, who everybody thought was opposition, and then they would go giving a seemingly optics of objectivity, and then they go out and help government agenda. This is what we want discussed. And because they are influential, once they say it out, other people begin to ride on those comments. Oh, I disagree, I don't agree. You have reactions, counter reactions, and then more rejoinders. So it's government uses that to set control what issues will dominate public discourse while sometimes doing something else totally behind to take attention away from real governance issues. Number 3 is framing. Framing shapes how people interpret policies through strategic language. This is particularly very useful for development communications. Many times we find that our politicians struggle with credibility issues around their performance because they just throw out information on, say, what they do.
Okay, I think we lost our facilitator for a minute.
Yes. So let's just hold on. She'll most likely join us soon. Okay, she'll join us soon, hopefully.
Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you, ma'am.
Also, please, what was the last thing you heard?
You were talking
Can you
about
hear me?
framing.
Okay, thank you. Framing, and like I said, it's very useful for development communication. Many times politicians do not frame their messaging properly. They do something and then they just throw it out. A senator has gone to empower a community with 5 goats. Everybody laughs and screams, what level of incompetence is this? What level of mediocrity is this? Whereas, if properly framed, that community is a community that their mainstay is sustain animal husbandry. And we have decided that there is this special breed of goats that can birth 30 kids with 1 pregnancy. And so we have bought these 5 goats for 5 farmers. We intend to increase the number of beneficiaries in the next cycle. Each cycle is going to last for 4 weeks. By the next cycle of another 4 weeks, that's next month, there will be another 5 beneficiaries. What we intend to do, and we are not just giving these goats, we are giving the goats. We have a deal with a veterinary doctor to ensure that their nutrition, their medication, everything is on point and on schedule. And so these farmers are going to benefit a lot. By the time they are able to raise this out of 30 kids, out of the 30 kids, we envisage that they would have in 1 cycle, 1 pregnancy, however long a goat's pregnancy is. They raise, for instance, hypothetically, they raise the kids under 12 weeks. They are grown enough to maybe sell. Research has shown, our data has shown that of the 30, when properly fed and well looked after, 25 would survive up to 12 weeks. And the 25, when they survive, can earn this farmer XYZ amount. When that kind of messaging is framed that way, then people will see it from a different perspective. Will there still be opposition? Maybe, yes, sure. Not everybody will agree with something, and that is okay. The fact that somebody does not agree doesn't make them either right or wrong. They just do not agree. So rather than frame it, they don't frame it, they just throw it out there. I'm going to give a practical example of something that happened while I was in government. We had gone to a community around Kotonkarfe local government area. The governor didn't for it, but of course, the local government chairman felt that because the community had been without light and so they threw out the red carpet. What was the thing that had happened in that community? The governor did not visit the community solely because of electricity. People forget that governors are politicians, and touching bases with grassroots communities are also ways that they show up their popularity amongst the people. So he didn't just visit because there was no electricity in this community. Now my administration has provided electricity, therefore I am going to commission it. He went there primarily as a politician. And now, by the time I came on social media, there were tags, there were name callings. Oh, even Petra is so mediocre. They took red carpet to go and commission a poll. Was it true that it was a poll that was provided? Yes. Electricity pole. Yes, it was electricity pole and the wiring. But what people forgot was that until that day, for over 10 years, a community of about hundreds of people had been living in darkness. It was a community by the river. They sold fish for their mainstay and they farmed. And it meant that they could not preserve whatever they had. They had to either dispose of them or sell at giveaway prices. People forgot that the realities of these people was that even I better pass my neighbor generator that was harmful to the environment, most of them could not even afford. So even though it was just one pole, it was going to change that one pole and meters of cables, electric cables, was going to make a lot of difference in that community. And it did make a lot of difference. It changed their livelihood, it changed their standard of living, it reduced crime because the petty criminals who hid under the cover of darkness to perpetrate their trade could no longer do that as well as they did. Did it eliminate crime? No. Did it reduce it? Absolutely. So these are the kinds of issues that framing helped to put in the right perspective. Another strategy is proxy messaging. It's similar to agenda setting, but this time around, it is using trusted voices. And sometimes we see this happen a lot. Trusted voices to deliver sensitive messages, because sometimes what somebody will accept from Kunle Lawal, who is the ED of Electoral College, they would not accept from Petra, who is a member of the APC. So it is same sensitive message coming from two different persons. It creates different results, different impact, because people are more likely to receive it in a more favorable way from one person than receiving it from the other. Because from one person, there is the coloration of objectivity, there is the trust and the belief in his credibility. For the other person, oh, it's just a partisan person who is speaking on behalf of a political party. So rather than taint the integrity of that sensitive message by using a particular messenger, you choose a different messenger to deliver the same message so as to achieve your objective. Another strategy for policy communication is the strategic timing. Release messages when they will have maximum impact. What is the impact you want to achieve? Do you want people to know that you are doing something, you want to release a press statement to, you do not want them staying on the details. Throw out something else. They are arguing about Two-Face Idibia and his fiancée and his divorce. Then you sneak in the press release. Yes, less people will pay attention. What impact, you have to understand the impact you want. What impact do you want? We want it in the public space, but we don't want many people paying attention to it. Do you achieve your impact when the whole or more than half the vocal population are talking about non-issues? Yes, you have the impact. Now, do you want something that people are going to be focused on and debate very healthily, whether they agree or disagree? You need feedback. Then you release it when the news cycle is boring, when it is lazy, when it is not heavy, to achieve maximum impact. You decide what impact you want it to achieve, and then you release your messages at strategic time. The 3 pillars of strategic political communication. What are those things that must stand? The things that hold strategic communication in place. You must have the message. In strategic political communication, the message must be clear, it must be concise, and it must align with core political values. It must, if you are saying that somebody is prudent, you cannot release a message that says that Petra Akintoye has released the sum of 300 million naira to support the naming ceremony of a man in her community whose wife gave birth to twins, but they don't work. Then you are wondering, how do these align? You are saying that she's a prudent person. Yes, she can be compassionate, but 300 million naira, not to set them up, not to do anything, but to throw a party. What sense does it make? Even if it is 5 naira, what sense does it make that she's throwing a party for somebody who cannot afford to take care of twin children? So it must be clear, concise, and not just that, aligned with core political values. It must resonate emotionally and intellectually with the audience. Now, you want people to see you as kind-hearted, you want them to see you as benevolent, but as much as you want to draw out their emotions, because messages are so powerful that no matter how tough a situation is, you can bring it down to the level of emotions. Once you bring it down to the level of emotions, you destroy it. So you want the message to resonate emotionally, but it has to intellectually, it has to make sense. That's basically what I'm saying. Then in medium, you need to select appropriate channels. This message will it be better delivered via radio? If radio, which of the programs, which of the stations? Is it better social media? If social media, would it be better just doing a programmatic ad on Google? Or should we use blogs? Yeah, or should we just use Facebook? If it's Facebook, should we use selected influencers? If not, what do we do? So you have to look at all the channels that are more appropriate for the message that you want to use, and you ensure message consistency across platforms for messages that go out through various, multimedia. You are using different media at the same time for the same message. Ensure that there is consistency on all the platforms. Now, audience, you identify and segment different voter groups or audience groups, depending if it is for politics or if it is for governance, and you tailor the communication to their specific needs and concerns so that it is something that concerns them and you are going to get the best feedback from them. What are the various communication channels that we have? We have the traditional media. Under the traditional media, you have TV, you have radio, you have newspapers, and they remain very relevant because there are so many places where decisions are taken, where decisions are made. People say, oh, we don't read papers anymore, but there is a reason why vendors are still in business. People still read papers. You go to those offices and you find different kinds of papers out there. They're on the table of the decision maker or the top level management. And when we say that newspapers, people say newspapers are not relevant. I tell you they are relevant because some of the content that we have on TV and radio are actually gotten from newspapers. So for instance, when you listen to news review are gotten from the front pages of newspapers, which is why many times people have events, people have done anything, they want it mentioned on the front page. They pay, they lobby, they do anything to have it mentioned on the front page so that when TVs and radios are doing newspaper reviews, they are program or their name will be mentioned. Then we have digital media, we have social media under digital media, websites, blogs, emails, and they are all very essential. Integrated campaigns, communication channel, these are the regular, visual, audio visual. We also have the out of home. Out of home would be the lamppost, the billboards, the digital billboards where your message or your content is just digitally scrolling as you drive past the urban areas. Then we have the integrated campaigns that combine owned, earned, and paid media strategies. Crafting effective political messages, whether for campaigns or in governance. There has to be clarity and consistency. We cannot overemphasize this. It should be simple, repeatable messaging, which is easier for the audience to understand, because you will not be there to start explaining. Don't use verbose language. Don't use ambiguous language. Make sure that it is clear and it is consistent so that the audience understands it and they remember. Because when you leave things to people's interpretation, when you leave things open to interpretation, then they can interpret it any way they like, and you will not always be there to correct false impressions that they may have. Messaging must be emotional and rational appeals. Like I said, appeal to people's emotions. There is no issue that is serious that you cannot bring down on its knee through emotions. You combine both logical arguments with emotional triggers to increase message impact. That's why you see sometimes you find somebody who is being docked for corruption, for instance, and the person is coming to court in neck braces, the person is coming in a wheelchair, the person is coming with crutches, or somebody is stating some facts. Yes, they are facts, but you suddenly find them crying on live TV. They are crying, snot is coming out of their nostrils. It is to appeal to emotions. So even if you are not getting it the logical way, if you are not buying the facts of the matter, you perhaps will be swayed by the emotion. Framing and narrative building. Control how an issue is perceived by choosing the right language, right context, and I say the right messenger and the right medium. Understanding your audience. To ensure that your message carries the impact that you want it to carry, you have to do your audience analysis. You have to do your audience audits. This message that I want to send out, who is it for? Who do I want it targeted at? Yes, everybody is going to see it because it's going to be in the news, social media, everybody would have their say. But who are the people I'm targeting? You do the demographics by age, gender, location, and education level. The psychographics, what are the beliefs of the people in this demography that I have just crafted? Are they very religious? Are they people that will tilt more towards an ethno-religious line of argument? And what are their behavioral patterns? When you just say that, they hate us because we are from Ogori, will they jump up and say, in fact, no matter what you say, we support you? What are the behavioral patterns? Then you also have to look at cultural sensitivity. You have to tailor messages to local context and cultural nuances. That must never, ever be forgotten, because many times you have the right thing to say, but you forget to take cognizance of cultural sensitivity, and the whole meat, the crux of your message is lost in the insult, real or perceived, that the people to whom the message is targeted at have viewed your message. And then we have tailoring messages to different groups. Again, we are looking at the segmentation, rural versus other urban audiences. The language and medium has to reflect the local realities. Who are you sending this message to? What are their realities? What will resonate more with them? Professionals or elites? If they are professionals and they are elites, you share data-driven insights and long-form content. Those are the people that have time to read through maybe books, maybe press releases that are very detailed, very, very detailed, and has a lot of analytical insights. They have the patience, they have the mental stamina and the rigor to look through and actually break everything down. If you put it for people who would prefer TikTok content, then you are wasting your time. That same message, you can break it into a form that will fit for TikTok audience if you want them captured as part of your target audience. Now, we have said that messaging helps to build brand and it helps to communicate the identity of a brand. Now, we are looking at personal versus party brand. Sometimes it's very difficult to separate a candidate from their political party's identity. Oh, this is Petra. When you see Petra, do you just see an APC supporter or do you see Petra, who is a human being? When I am speaking to you, do you think that I'm speaking to you because I want you to see me as a different person, or do you actually see just Petra for Petra? So it's very important that messages are able to distinguish between a candidate's image and the political party's identity. If you are speaking as when Kunle Lawal was the spokesperson for Kowa Party, there were times that we could see that, okay, this is Kunle speaking. Kunle was just speaking as Kunle Lawal, a citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And then when he spoke as the party's representative, it was also very evident. But sometimes it's difficult for non-professionals to see the distinct features in the person and the political brand. So that's why sometimes people, once some people assume certain offices, they shut down their personal pages on Facebook, for instance. They no longer put out their personal opinions. Everything they do is strictly official because they do not want, for instance, a spokesperson to a president or a governor, when they say something, have their opinion as opinion. Many times when people want to report it, they report it as being the take of their principal. It's not supposed to be so. And because it's necessary to avoid such confusion, people are just they try to avoid having any any personal statement on policy issues, on political issues that can be taken out of context and used to represent either the party they represent or the principle that they represent. Consistency: you must maintain a coherent identity across all communication touch points. Symbolism: use recognizable slogans, logos, and colors. I talked about this in my personal capacity towards the build-up of the 2023 elections, and I was talking about logos, party identity, that it's important that you do not use identities that are targeted only towards a particular segment of people. And it's very, very important to break down the logos to the language that everybody will understand. Because in a democracy, a professor's vote carries the same weight as a pure water seller's vote. It's not quality, it is quantity of votes that determines who wins an election. So you must make sure that as the professor is looking at a logo and understanding what it means, that you are able to tell the person on the street, the average person on the street, what your logo represents. That's why you hear the Labour Party had to say Mama, Papa, and Pikin, rather than, just showing the image. When you want to vote for Labour Party, it's Mama, Papa, and Pikin. APC is broom, just the broom, and PDP is the umbrella. So symbolism. Managing public perception. Always, always, always control the narrative. Proactively set the narrative before opponents do. Because when opponents do, they also want to control the narrative. And when they want to control the narrative, they don't want to tell your truth for you. They want the populace to believe the worst of you. So they leave what is good about you and either manufacture something bad about you or trump up what is actually bad about you. And then they set it out to the public. By the time you begin to react, people are wondering, if it is not true that you have cancer, why did you not just tell us that you were going abroad for treatment? If it is not true that you will soon die, why were you hiding it in the first place? So it is important to control the narrative. You set it out. I have worked for 3 years without resting. Now I am going to rest. So when they say you are sick, well, the rational thinking and logical thinking people say, well, this person said they were going to rest, so there is no story there. And then stop chasing after the wind, and the story just dies a natural death. You always must ensure that you manage misinformation. Correct. Have people who audit social media, who audit digital footprints, who audit media footprints for everything that concerns you and your brand, and correct false narratives immediately. The last one is public sentiment analysis. You use surveys and social listening tools to gauge public perception. Social listening tools would be sometimes Google Alerts is the social listening tool. You could have people who come back to you with feedback. You could have another social listening tool. Actually, is another account. What do we call them now? We call them who can help me, please? Parody account. So you say something about yourself, and then people don't know that it is you, because when they know it is you, the feedback they will give will be different from when they don't know that it is you, and then they give the feedback. And in those days, people, you see kings would go disguise and go into the communities to hear what people actually think about their king. And we see it happen in programs in America, such as, I can't remember the name of that TV show anymore, but where you see the CEO would now go to a particular branch of his own company and understand how employees actually see the company, how they view the company, what their perception of the company is, how well keyed into the company they are, and how well treated they are. What are their conditions? Just see it basically. So people use it. Somebody was saying that I can never work in Nigeria because once you own a shop, you put your picture out there, all your employees know you. But it's very good to use social listening tools to gauge public perception and re-strategize when need be. Now we are talking about strategic political communication, and we are going to be looking going to be looking at success stories. First, we will look at the global success stories. We had Barack Obama in 2008 and 2012. He pioneered the use of digital fundraising and micro-targeting. He segmented and decided that, okay, I'm focusing on upwardly mobile professionals, the colored communities, minorities, and then it just blew from there using crowdfunding, digital crowdfunding. Then the Brexit campaign, which was take back control. It was emotional. People thought the argument continues. Was it the right thing for Britain to have done at the time? Should they have exited Europe? That remains a debate at the level of international affairs and relations. But then the campaign was simply take back control. We no longer want Europeans to take our jobs simply because we all belong in the same Euro community. We want back our jobs and let them also keep their jobs. It was emotionally charged, and it worked. Then there was the Donald Trump's leverage. He leveraged direct communication via Twitter. While people were looking for spokesperson, Donald Trump is there too. He was there in 2016. Well, seemingly tweeting directly, and he bypassed traditional media, and he used Twitter a lot in 2016 to get his message across, and it worked. So all these are different strategies that people have used to communicate at the global level, and they were successes. Then we have the Nigerian success stories. We have the Not Too Young to Run movement. It demonstrated the power of grassroots mobilization and social media. So we had young people who were using social media at the same time, going from place to place, doing grassroots mobilization and mobilizing support for the Not Too Young to Run bill. at the time. Then the 2023 general elections increased reliance on digital platforms for political engagement, where we were people, supporters of the traditional parties, took jibes at the new party to say, oh, they had no structures. And what did they do? They leveraged social digital media for political engagement and to raise substantial number of votes during polls. Political town halls are also used by candidates to engage directly with voters and humanize their policies. The political candidates come down to the level of meeting with the people through town halls and meeting feedback on their policies and get their buy-in. Now, when we talk about political communications, strategic political communications, part of the strategy would be to integrate ethics and integrity. And this is very, very tricky, especially when it comes to government messaging. There's the truth versus the spin. There are times to spin, but there are times to come out with the truth. Always prioritize honest messaging over manipulative tactics. Transparency, when you share information openly, you build public trust. And even when you're at the times when you are forced, like I said, the first one is a bit difficult because there are times to spin. So at the time when you are spinning, you have already built deposits of trust with the public, which you can draw from. So they know that this story is not gelling too much, but well, you have been known to have very high integrity. You have been known to understand ethics and apply it to your communication. So they may not probe too much. They may not probe too hard. They will not come too hard on you, and they just give you a soft landing. Then public accountability, ensure leaders deliver on campaign promises. Leaders who deliver on campaign promises find their messaging easier to communicate, and they find it easier to gain more trusted unpaid influencers who carry their messages for them. Now, we talked about truth versus spinning. The slides are no longer being shared, are they?
Sorry, the network locked me out. Let me put it up again.
Okay, sorry. So avoiding manipulative tactics, for any brand a political brand to be reputable, you have to show over time that you can be trusted. And you do this by ensuring that you do not spread false or misleading information. We have seen many times where political leaders or elder statesmen have been caught in the web of sharing misleading or outrightly false information. And also do not use fear or divisive messaging to manipulate public sentiments. Any kind of messaging that tears us apart rather than unite us should not come from any brand, any political brand that wants to be respected. And ethical boundaries must be adhered to, whether they are regulatory guidelines or public ethics standards or even cultural nuances. We have to have respect for boundaries. What are the tools that we can use for citizen engagement? Because we are talking strategic political communication, and communication flows this way and that way. It comes from the either government or political parties or political candidates, and it flows back from the citizens, the audience, to them. So what are the tools that citizens can use? Town halls and forums facilitate face-to-face interactions and discussions. Then you have digital surveys, collect and analyze public opinions using online polls, interactive platforms, the use of mobile apps and social media to sustain ongoing engagement. These are all tools for citizen engagement. Emerging trends in political communication, AI, artificial intelligence, and big data. So you have to personalize your outreach through predictive analytics. So we cannot discount the use of AI in the use of in crafting strategic political communication and disseminating it. When you are crafting it, you want to know how people behave, what is their behavior pattern, their behavioral pattern, and then you predict what the messaging, the impact the messaging is going to have, and the feedback the messaging is most likely going to get. Influencer collaboration is big. It is global. It does not happen just in Nigeria. It happens all over the world. You partner with trusted voices to amplify your message. You have dropped this message. You want more voices that amplifies the message. Sometimes in amplifying, you have to simplify it to different audiences, or you want to make it more solid to whatever audience you want. Then you have the interactive media, use of podcasts, webinars, virtual events to engage modern audiences. In conclusion, strategic political communication matters. It matters because it shapes public opinion and political outcomes, because opinions lead to perception and perception leads to behavior. So behavior, of course, will lead to outcomes. Audience understanding is critical, because if you do not understand your audience, then you will not be able to effectively message the people. You will not be able to effectively craft the message you intend to send to that audience. The ethical communication always wins. It takes time, but when you build a tendency, when you build a reputation for being ethical in your communication, in how you engage with people, you build trust and transparency, and at the end of the day, you gain long-term credibility. And like I said earlier, that this credibility ensures that even when it becomes almost impossible for you to say the truth and you have to do what politicians do, you get a soft landing because you have some deposits with the people. You embrace innovation, adopt new technologies and trends to stay relevant. Overall, always ensure that your message is clear. If you do not take anything away from here, ensure that when you are thinking about political communication, there are 3 C's you must follow. And the C's are that your message must be clear, it must be consistent, and it must be credible. Always, so that you are able to build that credibility over time, and the people come to trust you such that when you say something, they don't necessarily have to fact check. Thank you very much, and thank you for listening. I am here and open to questions.
All right, thank you very much, Ma. It has really been an interesting and educative session. We really appreciate you, Ma. So if anyone has a question, please raise your hands or drop them in the chat box, and I'll give you the permission to speak. Do we have any questions? Or you can drop them in the chat box as well. All right, so we have a question. Margaret, I've asked you to unmute. Kindly ask your question now.
Okay, thank you very much, Mariam. Good evening, all, and good evening, Petra. Hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can. Good evening, Margaret.
Thank you so much even though I joined the session late, but I have a bit of a background in communication, so thank you very much. And it's nice to meet you, even though I know we've not met officially. My principal mentioned you some time ago, so yeah. Mine is just to paint
Who
a
is your
scenario.
principal?
Reverend Father Peter Babangida Audu.
Ah, okay. He was my principal. He was my boss.
Oh, okay. So, in a scenario or in a case where you have a brand and then trying to utilize traditional mediums to sell out your ideas, and how would you address a case where some mediums do not really buy into your messaging, in the sense that you send out invitations that you would like to utilize their platforms? So how would you address, or how would you handle such kind of situations?
Okay, so what I always advise people when I do my private advisory is that you need to, when you assume a role as a communications officer, a communication strategist, brand strategist, whatever in the communication sector, you need to have a handshake with you. As you are doing, we have talked about audience analysis and segmentation, but I touched briefly as well on channel or medium analysis. Which channel is the best to carry this message? Some will not carry your message because they do not align with their own brand values or their principles. So they will not carry such messaging. So when you have a message that you want to send out, number one is, after you have assumed your role, your official role, you should have a list of people who you are. When I say people, I mean that the organizations, the media organizations that they represent, and you go and have a handshake with them. Relationships are very, very, very powerful. So when you try to build this relationship, and if it is not easy, you reach out to and you draw on an existing relationship that you have with someone in that space, or someone who has influence in that space. And then you don't, not all media must not carry your message, because you can't even afford to have all media carry your message in the first place. So you have that relationship built, and then when you need them, you are able to, like I said, you must do your own analysis of the media organizations. What do we do? What does our brand represent? What media platforms, which of these media platforms will we align with? What is the relationship that we can strike? Again, relationships are powerful, personal or official relationships. Always cultivate them, always sustain them, and then they will help you to, even when you have this sort of relationships, people in those organizations become your gatekeepers. They are the ones who tell you, oh, we cannot take this message like this. If you do it like this, my organization will not take it. But if you craft it this other way, then it could work. And they will give you these advisories for free, because you have been able to you've been able to create a relationship which you have sustained over time. It's not always overnight. Relationships take time, it takes effort, it takes sacrifices as well. And it is not one-way traffic. It's two ways. They give, they collect, you give, you collect. So it has to be symbiotic. That's what I'll say. I hope that answers your question.
All right. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I've not seen any other hand. Any question, kindly raise your hands now or drop them in the box. Let me give you a minute or two to do that. Okay. So I don't think we have any further questions. I believe the class was so educative and well broken down, because you really dissected the topic for us. Okay, we have your hands up now. Sorry, ma. Okay. Shewolota, I've asked you to unmute. You can ask.
Yes, good evening, madam. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
The network has been very friendly tonight, this evening. I'd just like to find out, they say politics is, apart from being a game of number, politics is dirty, and we see messages that are directly, not even, one can be factual, and with one's facts, the other person could be beaten, so to speak. With facts. Oh, these are the things you have done in the past. These are the things you ought to do, you didn't do. These are the facts, you said this, which did not come out that way. Those are laying down facts. But in some cases, the Nigerian politics, I saw the global angle to it, and the Nigerian angle from the government side, where just because you brought out fact for them, they come out against you as an enemy. Should that affect one's, should that deter one's continuous strive for development? Because I live in a community where I just joined the community anyway. And in the past, people are used to, oh, let's contribute money to the NEPA, let's go to local government, we have to work it, we have to do it. But we are saying, no, this is not, it is your right. It is not right. This is your right. That just write, send them a complaint, and they are getting things done. So people with that, they call us the Oyibo speakers, Oloyibo, but we are getting results. And we have that kind of mindset, like the set of people in polytracy belong to that mindset. Now, they now come against you. Even the people that you are speaking for will now even come against you. Because recently we went to Nepal to ask for, just to wrap this place up, to ask for poles. And when they brought the poles, some they could not install them because a construction was going on. But people went there to riot. And these people that went to riot are this set of people that want to contribute money. So they now turned off that set of people's, the set of people's lights, that because, oh, you said the pole had broken down, it was going to cause problem for people. So they turned it off. So now the naysayers among them now brought up allegations against we that write complaints to the units, the technical units, saying that we didn't even write complaint, that we wrote petitions against them. That was why they punished the community. So people that you now were advocating for are now the ones now going against you. That you no, don't represent our community again. Don't say anything for us again. Don't. No. They still want to go back to this set of people who are contributing money. So with political communication, I mean, it's part of it. How do we continue to win this set of people over to us? Because it seems the loudest, the set of people that have the loud voices, who can make paparazzi, are the ones who are now even gaining ground.
Okay, if I understand you correctly, I think that the question is not just hinged on the communication. It will be, what do you want to achieve with the communication? Is it just about laying facts? Don't forget that we talked about the emotional appeal. You need to craft your message in a way that conscientizes. You are speaking to the people's consciences. Because believe it or not, there are people, when we say, oh, Nigeria is bad, Nigeria is not necessarily bad because only the people in government have been doing bad things. It is bad because somehow we have all imbibed bad traits that we exhibit here and there, and at the end of the day, the collective constitutes a nuisance to the good of society. So what your messaging will do, political messaging in that aspect, will not be to just say, oh, the fact is that you people have been collecting money. Believe it or not, there are some people whose work is politics. They don't have another address. And politics, like you rightly mentioned, is not such a clean game. And especially it gets dirtier at the local level, because for some people, all those contributions are how they make their own daily bread. So when you come as a savior and then you want to dislodge their means of livelihood, so to speak, of course you are going to you are going to meet opposition. If person won't collect food for your mouth, you no go fight, you will fight. So the way about it is to try to conscientize, not all, you infiltrate, you try to understand, and thankfully it's a community, so you don't, it's word of mouth, one-to-one. Is it going to take time? Yes. But if you want change, it is something that you have to engage, you have to invest a lot of emotions, you have to invest a lot of time in and you have to invest a lot of emotional intelligence and wisdom, so that you are not seen as somebody who just wants to come and change the status quo overnight. So it has to be a bit strategic. You have to be intentional. You have to be deliberate. And if you need to be cunning about it, you have to be cunning about it, such that you're able to infiltrate their ranks and win more people to your side. That then you can now start your campaign of sanitizing how local community development efforts are made. That's what I think could work.
All right, thank you very much. So there's a question in the chat box by Ugo Dalui. Is asking, what roles does gatekeeper play in strategic communication?
Okay, thank you
as
for
regards
that.
policy?
Yeah. So gatekeepers are people who help you, who are your eyes and your ears when you are not there. Of course, you cannot be there because you do not work there. But what they do for you is your opponent has, don't forget that media organizations are businesses. And businesses are there to make profits. They are there to serve a purpose, to add value. But essentially, they've got in the line of doing that, they have bills to pay. The bills are either direct, staff bills, overhead costs, and what have you, and indirect because they have families that depend on them as well to, make ends meet. So what they do is, as you are using them, your opposition is also using them. The same organization you pay that you want to come, your opponent is also paying that they want to come. So what happens is when you have gatekeepers, by the time the opposition sends damaging reports, the report is going to be processed before it is turned into news. If it is for paper, maybe the next day it goes to print. It goes to print that evening. The next day it comes out. So there is a process it follows. Your gatekeepers are the people who call you, who tell you, and give you heads up. Sometimes, if you are fast enough, if you are smart enough, you are able to now dislodge the purpose of whatever that communication they have sent to that organization is by putting out your own information very quickly first, and then your gatekeepers ensure that even though opposition message came first or the other person's message came, your opposition message came first, your own message is given priority and they begin to react and chase after you. So that's what gatekeepers do. And believe me, everybody who knows what they are doing, who uses the media, has their gatekeepers.
All right, thank you very much, Ma. If young innocent, I've asked you to mute. Can you ask the question in a minute?
Okay, good evening, ma'am. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Good evening.
Yeah. All right, thank you very much, ma'am. I want to really appreciate your lecture. You do a lot of knowledge insights on your lecture delivery. I want to thank you for that, ma'am.
Thank you.
You taught us so much and we learned a lot. So my question, ma'am, is I want to as a communication specialist, I want to know the strategy or the approach in which a party public relation officer can adopt in promoting his political party, maybe in local, state, or federal stage. So I don't know if you can just tell me a little about that now. I'd like to know. Thank you.
Okay, so the first thing is relationships. After you have gone to on familiarization or courtesy calls, whatever it is, after you've gone on those and when we are talking about promoting, don't forget that you have the traditional media for promoting, and traditional media not necessarily restricted to TV, newspapers, and radio. Traditional, if it's at the local community level, you are looking at the groups. What are the groups that are really relevant and very active in that community? Age groups, traditional council that is supposed to be apolitical, but you know that these things are just mere cliches. You have the maybe towns development union, whatever, and then you go to introduce yourself to all these power brokers, so to speak, stakeholders, in people who wield certain level of influence, and then you go see them. After seeing them, you introduce yourself. Then you can organize maybe like a parley. You can organize, if it's a village, you can go to the town hall or the community center and have a meeting with them, host them to a meeting. Oh, my name is Ayuba. I am the publicity secretary for this party at this level, and these are our policies. Don't even wait until it's so close to election. Have that rapport, build the relationship. Like I always say, these things are not magic. There is nothing you do that is going to give you immediate sustainable impact. You need to keep at it, you need to be consistent, and they need to be able to trust you to the level where what you say carries a lot of water. So if it is now at the state level, you realize that the stakeholders, the nature of the stakeholders will change a bit. And when the nature of stakeholders change, then therefore the channel of meeting, the channel of introduction, the channel of sustaining relationships will also definitely change. So as your strategies need to be reviewed based on the environment, based on the time, and based on the stakeholders that are involved. So for state, you are looking at maybe going to the correspondence chapel, where you have the NUJ, Nigerian Union of Journalists, and then you are there, you introduce yourself or you write to them, they invite you for programs, you invite them for a press conference where you open up, you tell them these are the things that your party intends to do, and as the publicity secretary, you have come to disseminate through them. And then they ask you questions, you answer, you have that parley, and you continue to oil your relationship with them. Oiling relationship doesn't necessarily mean giving them cash. It is also about investing in people. People are feelers. You want to know how they are doing. They have events. They invite you, you honor them. So those are the ways that you can, push your party's agenda and manifesto using the media. Again, if it is at the national, of course, you know that the stakeholders now, the level of stakeholders change. Definitely, you need to re-strategize. I don't know if that answers your question.
Thank you very much, Ma. I believe it gets already. So, Adebayo Abubakar, you kindly ask a question in a minute.
Thank you very much. And I most appreciate Lady Petra for her well-delivered lecture. Please, I just want to ask, as a communication professional, if you take up a job to manage the communication, public communication for an entity or a principal that has or that is suffering from reputational hangover, how do you go about it? For example, if the reputation is so bad such that no matter what comes out from such a person or an organization, people tend to doubt or even disregard. How do you go about mending such a broken relationship with the public? Thank you.
Okay, the first thing is, in your own mindset, you have to understand that you've taken a daunting job and you appraise the situation. Is this something that you have the emotional stamina to do? Because it's not going to be tea party. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be tough because you are seen as an extension of the person whose image you want to clean up. But the thing with communications is, over time, no matter how hostile people might be to receiving the reception to your face, your messaging, because it's not about you, it's about the person that you represent. They want to transfer that baggage to you because in the people's minds, why would you want to work for such a person if you are not like the person? But the thing with humans is that if you have a character that they see that is different from your principles, people begin to take notes bit by bit by bit. Again, it may take a while. It may take a while, but your principal must also be ready to listen to advice. Many times, what happens is you have somebody who has this reputational baggage, who is notorious but thinks that they are popular. They've acquired notoriety over time, but they think that they are popular. They mistake it for popularity, and then no matter what you advice you give them, however professional the advice is, they want to argue with you. So if you have such a boss, I would say that sometimes no matter what you do, it's not going to change. Nothing will change, and the longer you stay, the more people begin to see you as an extension of the person and that you are the same. However, if it's somebody who listens to professional advice, of course, listening doesn't mean that they will take everything that you say 100%. It means that they are willing to change and they begin to change. What you do is to use other people, like I have said, use trusted voices, because you are now somebody that people can no longer trust by virtue of inherited baggage. It is transferred aggression that the people have for that principle they are going to have for you. Transferred aggression, transferred disdain, transferred hatred. So you begin to look for credible voices that you can use to deliver messages that you would ordinarily have delivered. And then you do your work at the background. So it's the voice of Jacob, the hand of Esau, or however that goes. So you continue to do that. And then don't forget what you are doing with that is perception engineering. Because these people are credible, the voices are credible, people are willing to listen. And when they listen, they go back. Initially, it might be, I no agree. But over time, you begin to convert one person, two people, three people. And before you know it, some of these converts on their own begin to say, oh, this man is not that bad. Maybe he's just a creation of his opponents. And then because you are also not speaking out, you are at the background allowing people to say the things that you once said, you are framing the narrative, you are shaping the perception, and you are re-engineering perception. It will take a while, but it will work. But then, like I said, if the person is not open to professional advice, usually the best thing to do is just leave that job.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am. There's another question in the chat box. I think the last one for the day. The person is asking two questions, but I can't seem to get the first one, which is any a bad communication strategy? Well, I didn't get that, so I'll read the second one instead. And can you elaborate with an experience or examples on how propaganda can be used as part of strategic communication?
Okay, so the first question is saying, is there a bad communication strategy? If that is what it is saying, I will say that if I understand it to mean that, I will attempt it. People say that no publicity is bad publicity. I disagree because, like I said, some people are not popular, they are notorious, they've acquired notoriety because they are always in the news always, 100% of the time is the bad reason. It might be real or it might be fabricated bad reasons, but they are always in the news for bad reasons. And they don't take any measure to correct the impression that those bad information about them or the bad news releases have created in the minds of people. So there's the impression, it leaves the impression, and then if you do nothing about it, the impression becomes the perception. So, and then if you still do nothing about it, then the perception becomes the reality. When they judge, when they surmise, that is who you are, the impression that they have formed. So yes, there are bad strategies. If you are known, some people use fear a lot as a means of communicating because they want to manipulate people. If you are known for that, it might work, but it's not sustainable. So it's a bad strategy because the day it boomerangs really, really hard. So there are good strategies, there are bad strategies. Always best to adopt the good strategies. It might take a while, but it works better. Can I elaborate with an experience or examples on how propaganda can be used as part of strategic communication? Oh, absolutely. Propaganda. What is propaganda? Propaganda is simply to propagate. Propaganda means that you are spreading information. Now, in politics, it has come to mean that many times it is less facts, more stories. It's just stories, not much fact. But the truth is, even facts, you can make it, because if it's too factual, sometimes people will tell you that this thing cannot be true. It cannot be true. So you need the crafting of the messaging to be in such a way that it catches, it's like wildfire. There is the truth in it, but then you make it, if you need to make it salacious, if you need to make it controversial, if you need to, whatever will get the people's interest and make it go wild. Propaganda. We remembered when, let me give you an example. When the first tenure of Buhari, there was a propaganda. I'm an APC member. There was a propaganda that came out, and the propaganda was, oh, civil servants resumed at work by 8 o'clock in the morning. Body language was working. That was the body language propaganda. All contractors had gone back on site. You remember that we never saw any contractor on site. We didn't see pictures. We never saw anything. And everywhere, oh, that's the body language, the effect of Buhari's body language. Everybody knows that he's no nonsense. Therefore, all the contractors that had been mobilized that left site, they are all back on site. Civil servants now resume work very early because they are afraid that it is another time of war against indiscipline. And, a whole lot of many things that were supposedly wrong that were now being righted at that point. And it caught fire. And we remember that when things became, people said it was not body language, it was body odor. So that was one time that propaganda was effective as a tool of political communication. Now, could that have worked if there were policies that were in place to ensure that civil servants had a change in attitude, contractors had a change in attitude, and the Nigerians generally just wanted to do the right thing. Yes, riding on the wave of that propaganda, if those policies came out at that time, they could have and would have worked.
All right. Thank you so very much, Ma. I want to sincerely appreciate you. I myself, I have unlearned and relearned a lot of things as regard communication. So what
Thank you, Ma.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It was an
Thank you
honor.
very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much, Ma, for your presentation. It
Thank
was
you very
very
much.
Thank you,
appreciative.
Ma.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma. I really appreciate you once again.
Thank you so much, Petra. I think it was a very brilliant lecture. Petra, you know, I admire your work. I admire what you've done in time. You've grown so much over time. I'm very, very proud of you. And the college is proud of you now to at least you have now become a facilitator in the college, and we're happy we have this course. So I just want to say on behalf of the college, behalf of everyone that participates within the college, students, the working arm and the board, I'd like to say thank you very much, Petra, for being, the best at what you do. Thank you so, so much. And we hope to be seeing you in subsequent cohorts. So thank you very much, Petra.
Thank you very much, Edie.
Thank you for having me, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Good night, everyone.